Hi everyone. Okay, so today we will be talking about Jupiter, the planet Jupiter, the Graha Guru. So, what is Jupiter? Jupiter is about expansion. Right? Imagine this is a balloon. What happens when you blow more air into the balloon? It just expands, right? So this is like Jupiter, expansion. Jupiter is about blessings. Jupiter is about good fortune. It's about higher learning, wisdom. Okay, it's not really intelligence, but it's wisdom. Intelligence is more Mercury. Now, the Jupiter wants to bless us from where it sits in our birth chart. Okay, but in order to understand Jupiter a bit more, we need to look at the mythologies behind Jupiter. There are two separate mythology stories about Jupiter. One of it, Jupiter was known as Brihaspati. Brihaspati is also the deity of Pusha Nakshatra. Now, Brihaspati, he works in the court, he writes the law, he does things for the king. Okay, he's a very diligent, hardworking worker. In fact, he was so hardworking that he actually neglected his family. He neglected his wife, and because of that neglect, right, Chandra and Tara had that opportunity to commit adultery. In fact, that adultery actually created a war between Chandra and Brihaspati, and Shukra Venus actually supported the moon because Shukra felt that Brihaspati didn't fulfill his dharma, his duty towards his wife. Now, as a result of that adultery, Mercury was born as an illegitimate son. And of course, because Mercury showed that exceptional wisdom and intelligence, Guru Brihaspati accepted him as a son later on. Now, what is the significance of this mythology story? Well, Jupiter may not be the best husband. Okay, because of his neglect, his wife committed adultery. So depending on the degree and the sign of your Jupiter, it may or may not cause some problems in your marriage. Okay. Now the other mythology story is about Guru rejecting Shani to be his disciple. Shani in mythology was born from the shadow mother, the Charya, and because the Guru knew that Shani wasn't the actual son of Sun, he rejected Shani. And of course, eventually Shani went to Shukra. Okay, so what is the quality of Guru here? Now, Shukra wants to teach everyone, right? But Guru, Jupiter, is very selective. Okay, he only chooses the person that he wants to teach. Now, going back to our birth chart, right? What is the significance of these two mythologies in our birth chart? Now, like I mentioned, Guru sometimes can create problems to our chart, to our birth chart, if it's in the wrong dignity, if it's debilitated, or in enemy sign. Okay, now let's go through what happens when Jupiter is in different houses. Okay, from the first house to the 12th. Now, if Jupiter is in your ascendant, it is a good placement. Okay, because Jupiter has Digbala, which also is known as directional strength. Jupiter has directional strength in the ascendant house, in the first house. When Jupiter is in the first house, it gives blessings to the person. Blessings of children, marriage, and wisdom, higher knowledge. Okay, so usually this person would have no problems in getting a high education. Even the spouse could be very highly educated. Okay, so yes, it's a good placement for Jupiter in the ascendant. Now, when Jupiter is in the second house, it becomes a bit tricky. Okay, essentially, second house is a Maka house. What is a Maka house? Maka house is a death-inflicting house. Now, don't worry about that term, death-inflicting house. Okay, it's just a term for some other stuff. Right? When Jupiter is in the second house, what is second house? Second house is our speech. So for people who has Jupiter in the second house, you find that this person, right, tends to want to share his wisdom to other people, with other people. Now it can be a double-edged sword. Why? Because you know that someone who always want to share their knowledge and wisdom, but the other people may not want to listen to them. Okay, it's just like that guy who always think that by speaking or by sharing their wisdom they are trying to help people, but guess what? The listeners, the people who are listening to him, they don't like it at all. Okay, and that can create some trouble. Okay, so for people with Jupiter in the second house, you want to take note. Sometimes, just shut up. Just cut the crap. All right. The second house is also about family, our bank account, our savings account. Now Jupiter in the second house, it doesn't mean that you will have a lot of savings, right? You may have problem saving. Why? Because the Jupiter, like I mentioned, it sometimes will not give that positive results as it intends to. And because it's one of the heaviest, I would say it's the biggest planet in our solar system, right? It creates a certain barrier to want to save money. And the second house is our family, so the family usually has a lot of rules, about what to do, what not to do. So it creates some kind of a I would say problem for that person with his family. Okay, now if Jupiter is in the third house, now third house is communication. Okay, second house is speech, third house is communication. Now Jupiter does pretty well, okay, in the third house. Why? And it's especially good if you are in sales or sales and marketing. Okay, because it's expansion, right? It expands that communication ability of that person. And also because third house is about the self efforts and courage, it can give quite a courageous nature to that person. And your self efforts, the results of your efforts, will also have some expansion there. So it's a good placement for Jupiter. Now, if Jupiter is in the fourth house, well, congratulations. It also has very good blessings to the person. Now, what is fourth house? Fourth house talks about mother. Fourth house talks about our private life, our peace of mind, the conveniences that we have in life. So for a person with a Jupiter in the fourth house, you tend to be able to buy stuff that gives you convenience, like your property, like cars. Okay, upgrading from one small apartment to a bigger one. You can see that if you have Jupiter in the fourth house. Okay, mother can be also quite religious, and you can also get assistance and help from your mother. Okay, Jupiter in the fifth house. Now Jupiter is also the significator for children. So when Jupiter goes to the fifth house, Jupiter can give children, but there will be delay. Like I mentioned, Jupiter is that very heavy planet. So in the fifth house, it can give some delay to having children, but there will be children. Unless it's debilitated, okay, or in an enemy sign, then or there is some kind of affliction from other planets, then it may deny children, right? But essentially, yes, you have children, but delayed. There will be creativity. The person will be creative. The fifth house also talks about the mantras, and guess what? Jupiter being that guru, right? The person can be quite attracted to mantras, or on the other hand, mantras can be very helpful to you if you have Jupiter in the fifth house. Okay, Jupiter in the sixth house. What is sixth house? Sixth house is about our daily grind, obstacles, diseases, anything that impedes us from growth. We talk about the sixth house. Now, Jupiter in the sixth house is also tricky. Okay, now first and foremost, it means that the person will have to solve problems all the time. Your work can be related to solving issues. Now, like for example, lawyers, right? They help to resolve issues for their clients. So for people who are in the work of solving problems, well, this can be a good placement for Jupiter. Now, like I mentioned, the sixth house talks about obstacles and diseases, right? Those people with Jupiter in the sixth house can have issues regards to Jupiter. Now, what is Jupiter? What kind of medical issues are related to Jupiter? You're talking about fat content, triglycerides, the lipid issues, the high lipid issues. So Jupiter in the sixth house can give such issues, such medical issues to people. So like I mentioned just now, if your job is related to resolving issues, problems, this can be quite a good placement. Jupiter in the seventh house. Now, seventh house is also a marker house like the second house, so it becomes a bit tricky as well. For those people with Jupiter in the seventh house, now seventh house talks about marriage, partnership. Is also a very the most important house for businessmen, because you need partnership. You need to have good connections with people, right? If first house talks about you yourself, the seventh house talks about other people. Now, when Jupiter comes here, you find that your spouse may always treat you like as though you are their student, meaning your spouse behaves like he's a teacher, teaching you, talking down to you. Okay, this is where the quality of Brihaspati comes in, or the quality of Guru comes in, where your spouse, instead of communicating with you, they tend to talk down to you. Okay, and Jupiter feels it's kind of debilitated here as well. Now, if for those of you who know, Jupiter is debilitated in Capricorn, right? So the seventh house is like the higher 10th house. So Jupiter feels a bit disturbed in the 10th house and in the seventh house, because it's the 10 from the 10. Okay. And in some cases, right, Jupiter in the seventh house gives marriage issues. Well, for those of you who thought that, maybe Saturn was the malefic one in terms of marriage, well, Jupiter happens to be quite malefic in the seventh house. Okay, so for those of you who has Jupiter in the seventh house, you may wish to take note of that, how you can actually try to improve your communication pattern with your spouse. But I'm just saying it because usually it's not easy. Jupiter in the 8th house. Now, what is 8th house? 8th house is about hidden information, hidden knowledge, anything that is buried underground. So, with Jupiter coming here, this person will be very attracted to hidden knowledge, the occult, the metaphysics. They can do very well in those subjects. In fact, if you want to be an astrologer and you have Jupiter in the 8th house, good news. Okay. It can also give the kind of expansion in terms of joint assets with your spouse. Okay, why? Because the 8th house is the bank account of your spouse. It's also the talking about other people's money. Yeah, so finance managers can also be seen here because Jupiter is in the 8th house managing other people's money. If Jupiter is in the 9th house, now what is 9th house? 9th house is the father's house. And usually for Jupiter in the 9th house, you tend to have cordial relationship with father. And the 9th house is about higher knowledge as well. Okay, so it does give you the tendency to want to pursue higher studies. Okay, 9th house talks about fortune, and from the 9th house, Jupiter actually looks at the ascendant. So Jupiter is able to bless the ascendant from the 9th house. Now Jupiter is in the 10th house. The 10th house talks about the teachings of father. Okay, 9th house is father, 10th house the teachings of father. The 10th house also talks about our public life, our career. Okay, if 4th house is private life, the 10th house is public life. Now, when Jupiter comes here, now Jupiter feels a bit disturbed here. Why? As I mentioned just now, Jupiter is debilitated in the sign of Capricorn, right? So the 10th house was the original house of Capricorn. So Jupiter does feel a bit uncomfortable here. Now, as Jupiter is the guru, what does guru like to do? Guru likes to be in his own ashram, meditate, you know. But in the 10th house, the guru is being forced to face the public. You may want to have a more private time to yourself, but then you are always forced to do things. You are always forced to handle, issues of other people. Okay, but there will be an expansion in career, because why? Jupiter is about expansion, right? Okay, so yeah, it can be quite good for your career, but then you feel disturbed, you feel drained in energy. If Jupiter is in your 11th house, now it's a good placement for Jupiter for gains. 11th house is the most important house of gains, but 11th house is also the gain from your career. So if you look at it, the 11th house is the second from the 10th, and if 10th house is a career, 11th house is the gain from career. Having a Jupiter there, it gives expansion to gains of career. And 11th house is also about your social network, your professional network circle. It gives expansion to that. So good placement for Jupiter. If you have Jupiter in 11th house, well, expect great earnings during the dasha of Jupiter. Now, lastly, if Jupiter is in the 12th house, now what is 12th house? 12th house is our subconscious mind, is a house of losses. Now, losses may not be bad. Loss of something bad is also good. Okay, the 12th house talks about things that happens behind doors. Okay, so when Jupiter comes here, right now, it may not be 100% good for Jupiter. Why? Because you would want and you would tend to be a loner, and but unless you go overseas. Now Jupiter may make you reside overseas, and you will find that you find success overseas compared to you staying in your home country. And especially if Jupiter holds the highest degree in your birth chart, it gives a lot of good results if you reside overseas. So for those of you who has Jupiter in the 12th house, you may want to consider that. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, this is the end of my video. Okay, I'll talk to you more. Maybe in the next one we will be talking about Saturn. All right, thank you. Bye bye.